Your cost to acquire a client as a life insurance agent is the most important metric that you need to be tracking. But also, we want to talk about one of the keys, which is how you can leverage referrals to 10x your business. On this channel, I talk about how agents can hit $40,000 a month. My name's Trey. I'm the owner of Agent Lead Lab. In the past 3.5 years, we've helped 550 agents issue pay $40K a month. And on this channel, I just try to talk about the behavior, strategy, and tactics of those individuals, what they're doing, and how you can go out and do it as yourself. As always, make sure that you like, comment, and subscribe. Let's hop right in. I hope you guys know I literally don't record. This is like live. So I just record these as I go. And I've had a lot of people that have asked about me dropping different content. I am, if you want to see certain things, I know some people asked about like veterans, breaking that down. So I have some more content coming. But today I had something I wanted to share because I think this is the most important metric. So for those that don't know, there's a thing called cost to acquire a client or cost per acquisition. So we're going to look that up real quick. Cost to acquire client, right? This is often called CAC. It's the total expense, including marketing, sales, and salary software incurred to convince a new customer to buy a product. It's calculated by buying the total number cost, calculated by dividing total acquisition cost by the number of new customers acquired, right? Now, the next thing and what you're going to look like is cost per acquisition. This is CPA, digital margin metric that measures the total cost of acquiring one paying customer or specific action, right? This can also be the same thing, but the cost per acquisition can be different because it can be for leads, all right? So use these words, use interchangeable, but today I'm going to talk about a cost to acquire a client in the life insurance space. Now, nobody really talks about this. Like, I didn't learn this as an agent. I learned this running a business, but it's a very important metric because you are a self-employed business owner. So let's not overlook it, okay? Now, why is this number relative and important? Because how you figure this out is really simple. So I'm going to go through a simple equation for those that don't really know what I mean. So cost to acquire a client is this. So it's total lead spend divided by number of sales from that lead spend. Okay. So let's role play. Let's say you spend $1,000 on leads. Okay. And then you get 10 sales. That means 1,000 divided by 10 equals 100. So that means that your cost to acquire a client would be $100 in this instant. Okay. I spent $1,000. I closed 10 people, right? That's $100. Okay. That's a $100 cost to acquire a client. The key to scaling is knowing this number. Now, there are way more factors that I've broken down in other videos of like going through your KPIs. That's key performance indicators, like your cost per booked appointment, right? Your closing percentage from those booked appointments, which will then determine what your cost to acquire a client. Obviously, your cost per lead, but this is the most important metric. And then there's two ways you can do it. Some people start front end and go back end. I go back end and go front end. So I figure out like, okay, if my cost to acquire a client, so what I would do is run a test. So that's why a lot of times it's not necessarily about the cost per lead, because let's say that I'm getting, $20 leads, right? But every 10 leads, I close a deal. It's like, okay, that's $200 cost to acquire a client. It's like, all right, like that's not bad. And some people be like, oh, I got 7 leads, I'm supposed to close like 6. It's like, I mean, not really. And then here's the thing that ties into cost to acquire a client is like your return on that, right? Because then you have to look at your average cost per sale or your collected per sale. Okay, that's what I call, or commission per sale, however you want to do it. So cost per sale is typically like, that's going to be for marketing. And then you have collected per sale. That's also going to be for marketing. So as a life insurance agent, you want to look at commission. Oh, that's bad. I think that's right. I don't know, that's not, my spelling's not the greatest. Commission per sale. And the reason why you look at this, okay, it's like I put 100 in and I can average, right? Let's just say $950 back. Okay. So the question is, if I'm, and I don't look at like the AP, I look at what's the commission. So if I sell a policy every $100 I spend, I get $950 back. You just do that over and over and over again until those numbers shrink. Now, here's the beautiful thing about life insurance, that unlike traditional marketing, like my business and a lot of business owners, because everybody's a lead, it's honestly infinitely scalable. That's why the multiplier for life insurance buying, selling your business is really high. And a lot of people get into financial services. Why it makes the most millionaires. It's because it is a very repeatable, duplicatable, recession-proof business that requires you can solicit anybody. And there's tons of ways to do it. Most of the times when you run a business, it's very hard to grow without some level of leads. Like a lot of majority of businesses, right? There are people that work off warm market referrals, and you can do that to a point, but it's a lot of business that struggle, especially from a digital standpoint. With this though, your leads are infinite, and there's so many different type of leads. Like if you just talk about the life insurance space in general, every single human being has a lead, so it's infinitely scalable. I mean, infinite to the amount of how many people live on the planet, because everybody can use it from every country as long as they have life insurance, which most countries do, at least from what I understand. Maybe they don't, so that might be ignorant of me to say. But the reason why I'm breaking this down is because if you don't know these numbers, you're making all of your decisions based off emotion. And emotional decisions are not productive for business. They're not. It doesn't matter. So most people, the way they look at it, let's look at real scenarios, right? Okay, so an agent, let's go through examples, spends, let's go, $2,000 a week on leads. He's getting, all right, and let's reverse engineer everything. Okay, so this person, let's say that they spend 2,000, they close 6 deals. Okay, we're just gonna look at the actual lead spends $1,000 a week on leads, and they close 2 deals. All right, now let's break this down. Yeah, we'll use this. And this is going to be hard because I always say freestyle these. Let's see what these numbers turn out to be. It doesn't matter. You guys are with me live. All right. So this person closed 2 deals. So their cost to acquire a client is $500. Okay. Let me actually reverse into this. Let's go 4 deals. And let's go 4 deals. Okay. So this is a cost to acquire a client equals $500. And this is a cost to acquire a client equals $250. So their cost to acquire a client is half. Right? But let's say on this example, this person's getting, I'm going to explain how this works. Total leads. Let's say they're getting, let's say it's $50 a lead. So 40 leads. 50 times 40. 1, 2. Yeah, 10 would be, 500. Yeah, so 40 leads. And then let's say this person is getting, let's say 100 leads. Let's just use that for better example. So CPL here equals $50, and the CPL here equals $10. Okay. So let's just say that this collected per sale or commission per sale is 2,500. And like they say this collected per sale equals 800. Okay. Now, most people for a blank statement would say like, okay, this person's making $3,200 and they're spending $1,000 less. If they don't break these numbers down, this is how people look at it on paper. And this person's saying, I'm spending or I'm making, that's a little too high of a jump. Let's do 1,800. Cool. So if you get 4 sales, 1,800 times 4, 7,200. Cool. This person making 7,200. Now, yes. Perfect. So this is exactly what I want to do. And I'm freestyling these numbers, guys. This is literally just me making this up. Okay. Now, the average agent would be like, yeah, bro, well, if they don't have these numbers, because now if you're even looking at these numbers, you should start doing quick math. But most people won't do this. They'll be like, bro, you're spending $1,000 more than me, and your cost per lead is $40 higher. You should be. I'm doing better than you. These leads are better. I'm closing a little bit less than you, but I'm also saving an extra 1,000. So honestly, bro, if I just wanted to double up, I'm gonna make this, and like you would double up and spend, but I'm getting a higher ROI, right? Like that's how most people think in their mind, because they're like, well, I'm spending 2K, I should be making more. And it's like, okay, one person can say that, right? But here's the thing, as you scale, what are you paying attention to? So if you double this, right? You're not your cost to acquire client. Let's say it stays even, because it probably will in life insurance. It's not going to drastically bump because once again, it's infinitely scalable. So you have numerous leads. Let's say now that you're spending, you double this just to make it even. Okay. So now you close 8 deals, right? Average commission of 8. So 8 times 8 is 6,400. You're still making less than this person, but you think most people, because they don't do all this other stuff, they're like, well, I'm just gonna close more. And it's like, bro, like, no, you're not. You know what I mean? Like, you're just not. Like, you're getting 100 leads. You're closing 4 deals, right? Your cost per lead is $10. You feel like you're the man. You're not really the man, but in reality, you're thinking like, okay, in my mind, this could be scalable. If I just close more, and you're like chasing closing more, which I guess could be better, but like this metric alone shows you that even with these are obviously better leads. Now your cost to acquire a client is a little bit higher, but you're making more. So it's like rather spend 6,400 or spend this, because like it's like if I spend another 250, right, and then I get another sale for 800, it's like cool. But if I also have to spend another 500, I'm gonna make more. So every time I spend $500, I make 1,800. Every time I spend 250, I make 800. I mean, like, yeah, I guess, but most people in their mind would be like, well, I'd rather just double and make less because I get more leads, and then I'll make more. So in their mind, they think that them doubling their leads is just going to make them more money. In reality, it's not. And the problem is that, once again, I just try to use a brief example to give you a synopsis, but this happens with a lot of my clients all the time. They're like, well, I just want the cheaper leads because I just think that I'll close more. And it's like, yeah, but you have the thing that we're not equating for is like, what's an easier level to pull? Selling 40 leads or selling 100 leads? It's like, I'd rather sell 40. I'd rather improve my closing rate on 40, because if I close one more deal, so let's now say I close 5 deals at 2,000, what does that turn me into? So I close 5 deals, 2,000. Oh, no, my math's not good. So now it's a $400 cost to acquire a client for me closing one more deal. If I close one more deal on this, it's like it takes me down $50. It's a $50 drop. And then I'm still only collecting 800 versus now I do $100 drop and I'm collecting another 1,800. So let's just say that we do this math and let's actually convert this. Let's see what the difference here is. So now I close 5 deals at $400 cost to acquire a client with 1,800. So now that means that if I'm doing 1,800 times 5, that's 9K that I'm getting. So 9K turn. On this one, I'm closing 5 deals and now it's only 200, but now I'm getting 3,500. And even if I have 10, I'm only getting 7 grand. So I'm $2,000 less. You see, so as you scale, collecting more per sale will always outweigh. Like, because these are better leads. So it's an easier lever to pull to increase your sales rate on better leads than to try to pull increasing your sales rate on worse leads. And that's typically how the lead game works. And I know this was a long way to go around, but this is how the cost to acquire client actually plays out. That's why if you see in the original video that I recorded this in, you pair demographics with cost to acquire client. You don't just look at cost to acquire client and just go berserk, because that's a false narrative. It typically is based off what you're selling. Like if I'm selling a high ticket product for, $50,000, Like, yes, the cost to acquire a client is going to be significantly higher. I have to talk to a different demographic. I have to target different. The quality of the person is different. I have to take them through the funnel differently. Okay, fine. But then at the same time, it's like, well, I'm closing these people at like a lower clip, and it just doesn't make sense. So you need to figure out like what is the equation that you want to solve for to know based on the lead type that you prefer to work with. Most people will be like, well, I'll just buy more of these leads to make more. And it's like, yes, if the input output is correct, if the actual cost to acquire a client aligns with the collected per sale. If you're collecting 2,200 per sale and you only got to spend 350 to get a close, like it doesn't. So it's like even my perspective on the numbers. It's like, okay, for every $350 I spend, let's just say I get one sale. Okay, well, if I spend $700, I get two sales. If I spend $950, or if I spend $1,050, I get three. And it's like if I spend this much, so if I spend four, if I get four, if I multiply 350 times four, so 350 times four, that's 1,400. If I multiply 350 times five, that's 1,750. If I multiply 350 times six, that's 2,100. So if I average 2K on my deals and I do six times two, that's 12K. And I do 12 times four, that's 48K. And that's a pretty high cost to acquire a client. Like most people can close depending on the lead type less than that. So even if you do $200 and then you want to close eight, that's $1,600 that you got to spend a week. Now, if you're doing the average collector is $2,000, then you're literally going to be doing eight times $2,000, which is 16,000 times four is like 60,000. Right? And I'm just doing. It's all about math. Like it's all about figuring out what those numbers are. Now, what the real game is once you figure this out, here's the variable that nobody speaks about. If you acquire the client, so this is how I built my business, because when you have a good product or you're really good at what you do, i.e., like if you're a life insurance agent, you're doing a service for somebody. You're selling a product, which is, life insurance, but like you close them based off of how well you do your job, i.e., your service. The product itself doesn't necessarily sell, because if people thought that the product itself sell, there wouldn't be need for agents. They would just go buy the product. But they need people to be the middleman to get them to buy it, right? That's where the sales ability comes in. Well, the reality is this. It's like, well, how do I evaluate when to go in for referrals? And I'm like, well, every time you speak to somebody, you should go in for referrals. Now, I personally think that the most underrated thing in life insurance that I didn't know about was referrals. If you really believe what you do and you're selling a legitimate product, you would tell everybody, or you would tell everybody. I think about us, that's how I've grown. Like I've worked with one person, they told a bunch of people, and to the point where like we had so many people referring, I was like, well, I think I could do like a real business out of this. And it grew into something. And that's typically how things can get started. But a lot of times, if you don't know that or have that firm foundation, essentially, when you go to tell somebody about the product or service, if you don't believe in it, you probably won't refer it. And now that I know a lot about it, I would tell everybody. I'd be like, hey, so now we got you taken care of. Let's do this. Can you grab a quick pen and paper? Because there's about 3 or 4 people that I'm sure you know would also be interested in this product, and I'd like you to make a warm introduction, right? Or another unique way that people do it is say like, hey, so you tied these people as your beneficiaries, and we got you set up today. Can you go ahead and grab your phone real quick? I'm going to need you to put together a group message, make a little introduction for me with the people that are on your policy, so I can make sure that I talk to them and tell them how this kind of works, which is actually true. And then you get on the call with them and you're like, hey, they got set up for this, blah, 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 blah. I just wanted to let you know how it works. Cool. Just a quick question. Do you happen to have any life insurance on yourself? No? Cool. Well, hey, I can briefly go through and show you what that would look like. Let me just pull that up. And if it makes sense, we can just go ahead and pull the trigger and get you set up as well. Right? And then you do that, and then you get there first. The cool thing is, though, if you get good at initially cold selling, you only need a few sales, like legit sales a month. And then there's this hidden cost to acquire a client that's not in there we didn't talk about. So if my actual cost to acquire a client, let's just say I'm like, I only want to write good business, which is a unique way to go about it, because some people get stuck in this like rat race. You're like, I only want to write good business. Okay, well, the first person you close, let's say you spend $500, but you get a close. It's like, that's kind of high, but it's okay. You're really good close, sticky business. They really want it. You close them. You get into their network, and then you find out that you get 3 or 4 sales off of that. Well, theoretically, if you take that one person and you add 3, that's 4. So if you take your cost to acquire a client, which was 500, and you now divide it by 4, that's going to actually tell you. That's going to actually tell you what the best thing to do is, right? So let's say you said 500 divided by 4. Now your cost to acquire is actually 125. But you have real numbers for you to base that off of, because now you feel very confident knowing like, cool, this is actually going to be the best plan of action for me that I want to, start doing. So hopefully that helps, and I hope I was able to kind of go through that today. But the referrals is an easy way to just reduce everything I just said even down. So even if you have a high cost to acquire a client because you're not that great at selling cold leads, if you're really going the back end, so there's pros and cons to everything. If you're a super aggressive dog on the front end with sales, leads are going to be perfect because your cost to acquire a client is going to go down. But you can make it even better by working referrals. And if you normally working warm market and you're getting into sales, dude, spend the money. Fall on your face until you get good, because if you know that on your back end, even if your cost to acquire a client is super high, like if you spend a band and close one deal, but you get 3 policies off of that, it's like your cost to acquire a client is really 250. And then if you get better and do 500, then you start. So like the goal would be to get to where you knew that when you close somebody, you close 2 or 3 more people. So your cost to acquire a client theoretically was actually 0. Right. And it's really lower than that, because if you make money off of it, you kind of have to take it out of the cost, but we're not going to do that. Just take the total number you invested and divide it by how many people it was. So if it was like, let's just see what it is. So let's say it was 500 divided by 5 is 100. So what would have to be 500 divided by 10? It'd be 50, right? So it'll get to a point where it's like $100 or $50. It's like, if you got that deep, it'd be like, dude, I just spent $500 and I got all these people, because selling life insurance is LTV. Like, it's inherently LTV. There's really nothing hidden about it. So, you have to keep that in mind. But as always, please make sure that you like, comment, and subscribe. If you're a life insurance agent and you want to buy leads, go to leadlabcrm.com. We'd be more than happy to get you hooked up on our leads. If you are an agency owner and you want to get into our free partnership, go to agentleadlab.com. There should be a book call feature. You can book a call. We'd love to talk to you. As always, we'll talk to you soon. You have a blessed day. Appreciate you.